Hey guys, I am Abhijit and in this video we will learn about the ionic bond. But first, let's check out what is a bond. A bond is a force of attraction between atoms, molecules or ions. So focus on these two words here. Bond is a force and it is attractive in nature. What that means is, if I have an atom here and an atom here, whatever brings them together and gets them closer like this, we call that a bond. Now a bond is mainly of three types. Let's look at what are those. One is the ionic bond, another is covalent bond, third type of bond is called coordinate bond, and in this video we will take a look at the ionic bond. So what is an ionic bond? An ionic bond is the force of attraction between ions. Now, which ions attract each other? Now, you know that ions are of two types, right? One is called cation and the other is called anion. Cations are positively charged whereas anions have a negative charge. And you know that opposite charges attract each other whereas like charges, for example plus and plus or minus and minus, will repel each other. So since we need the force to be attractive, therefore an ionic bond is always formed between a cation and an anion. Okay, let me give you an example. Let's say we have two brothers Ne and Na and two sisters Cl and Ar. Now out of these, Ne is very happy and so is Ar. Can you guess why? Because everybody calls them stable, and this is because they have a stable electronic configuration. Neon has 10 electrons and argon has 18. Now let's look at sodium, Na. He is not so happy. Why? Because he has got 11 electrons and he thinks, if only I had 10, everybody would have praised me too. And so what he does is, he kicks out an electron. And since he left an electron, he becomes Na+, right? So now he has also got 10 electrons and this makes him very happy because now he has the same number of electrons as his brother Neon. Let's look at what chlorine is thinking. She says, I have 17 electrons. If only I had one more. But wait, here is the extra electron. And so chlorine says to this electron, hey you, come over here, make me stable. And so what happens is, Cl takes up the extra electron and becomes Cl- with 18 electrons, and she is also now happy. But something else happened over here. Now we have a positive charged cation as well as an anion. And what happens when there is a cation and an anion? They attract each other and form an ionic bond. So what we get is Na+, Cl-, and they stay together. So now let us look at when an ionic bond will be formed. In the previous example, we saw that we need a cation and an anion. That is, we need somebody to give off an electron easily. Sometimes we call such substances metals, and this process is known as ionization. Now for this to happen easily, the metal should have low ionization energy. That is the energy required to carry out this process. We also need somebody to take up that electron. Now for this process to happen easily, the species B should want that electron badly, and therefore it should have high electron affinity. Electron affinity means how much you want that electron. Alright, now what we see here is that the electron from A has travelled to B. That is, there is complete transfer of electron from one species to another. Right? Okay, now it's time to check out some of the properties of ionic compounds. But first, let us take some examples. We have NaCl, MgCl2, MgBr2, MgO, CaCl2, etc. All of these are ionic compounds. Right. So what properties do they have? Before I discuss the properties, please keep in mind these points about the ionic bond. The ionic bond, which we learned just now, is an electrostatic force, which means that it is very strong. And the value of this force is given by if you do not know what this equation is, we call it the Coulomb's law. We are not going to go into details here, we will just use this to explain our properties. Now the first property is that the ionic compound is hard. Why? Very easy to understand, because the bond is very strong. The second property is ionic compounds are soluble in water. What happens is, when you put an ionic compound in water, water decreases the value of K, and because of that the force between ions decreases and they become far apart, and because of this they get soluble in water. Third property is ionic compounds are bad conductors. In solid phase. Why? Because since the force is so strong, the ions are not free to move. But when we dissolve them in water, they become good conductors. This happens because now, since the force is reduced in water, therefore the ions can easily move around. So these are some of the properties of ionic compounds that you should keep in mind. So guys, that was all about ionic bond. I prepared this video as my entry into the Khan Academy Talent Search. If you are a teacher and watching this video, do check out the link provided in the description box and make a video of your own. It is a wonderful opportunity for teachers like us to connect to millions of students out there. Thank you.